Losing the one you love doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your world. Suddenly, the house feels bigger, the silence feels heavier. The simplest routines, like making a cup of coffee or looking out the window, are filled with an absence that screams in every corner. And you ask yourself a question that hurts more than it seems. What do I do now, with all this love that has nowhere to go? Today, I want to speak to you who have lost that person who was your companion, your shared laughter, your refuge. To you who wake up and go to sleep with that emptiness, that hollow space no one else seems to notice. What do you do when the silence of their absence is the loudest part of your day? Grief is not a straight path. It's not an orderly process. It's not a calendar someone can mark with fixed stages. Sometimes you feel strong in the morning and broken by the afternoon. Sometimes you smile in a photo and cry when the lights go out. And that's okay. There's no right way to hurt. But there are some silent traps that many people fall into without realizing. Behaviors that seem to help us, but actually cause us more harm. Actions born out of love, fear, or guilt that end up making us carry a heavier pain than necessary. In this video, we're going to talk about 5 common mistakes many people make after losing their partner. Not to judge, not to point fingers, but to give you tools, to be there with you, so you can keep going without completely falling apart. Because maybe you can't avoid the pain, but you can avoid letting it consume you entirely. Stay until the end, because the last piece of advice might be the key that helps you breathe again with less guilt, less weight, and a bit more peace. Mistake number 1, denying the pain and pretending you're okay. One of the most common and most silent mistakes that many people make after losing their partner is this: denying the pain, pretending they're fine when everything inside is falling apart. It's easy to fall into that trap, because we live in a world that applauds strength, but doesn't always know how to handle fragility. Phrases like, "You have to move on," "You have to be strong," "He wouldn't want to see you sad," start surrounding you from the very first days. And little by little, you believe them, or at least you repeat them. You say, "I'm fine," when you're not. You smile when all you really need is a hug. You swallow your tears because you think enough time has passed for crying. But grief doesn't go away just because you ignore it. It doesn't dissolve because you keep quiet. The pain that isn't cried out stays inside, and from there, it looks for other ways to emerge. Marta, a 72-year-old woman, lost her husband, with whom she had shared more than 5 decades. At the funeral, she didn't shed a tear. She forced herself to stay composed, to greet guests with her head held high, to keep up with the house, the grandchildren, the tasks. "I'm fine," she said over and over. It was for the best. He was suffering. But inside, something was fading. Months went by, and Marta started feeling tired all the time. She slept poorly. She had anxiety, forgetfulness, inexplicable sadness. One day, she simply couldn't get out of bed. She broke down, unable to understand why. The answer was simple but painful. She had never allowed herself to grieve. And when the soul can't speak, the body finds ways to cry out for help. Denying your grief doesn't protect you. It prolongs it. It deepens it. Because pain needs a place to be expressed. It needs time, tears, words. And above all, it needs permission. Permission to cry without having to justify it. Permission to say, "I'm not okay," without feeling weak. Permission to talk about the one who's gone, without fear of making others uncomfortable. If you've lost your partner, don't force yourself to be strong all the time. Don't wear a mask so the world won't see your wound, because that wound can only heal if you let it breathe. Talk, cry, look for a safe space, a friend, a therapist, a support group, or simply a place where you can tell yourself, "Today, it hurts, and that's okay." That too is strength. Mistake number 2, clinging to the past as if it were the present. There's a very fine line between remembering and staying tied down. Remembering is natural. It's human. It's holding on to a smell, a song, that mug you both used every morning. Memories are tiny, invisible threads that keep us connected to those we love. But when those threads become chains, the past can rob us of our ability to keep breathing in the present. Many people, after losing their partner, don't change a thing. The bed stays the same. The clothes remain hanging in the closet. The toothbrush is still there, untouched. And each object becomes a silent promise. This isn't over. Any minute now, they'll come back. Talking about the person as if they were still alive is also common. He didn't like that food. Today he'd be watching his show. I'll wait for him to arrive so we can have dinner. And while it might seem sweet or even comforting at first, over time, it can turn into an emotional prison. Carlos, for instance, was 75. He lost his wife after 43 years of marriage. Every night, he slept hugging one of her shirts. He would wash it, scent it, carefully fold it each morning, and hug it again at night. A year later, he was still expecting to hear her steps coming down the stairs. He would sit on the couch as if she might appear at any moment. He wouldn't let anyone touch her side of the bed or change anything in the house. Carlos wasn't just remembering. He was frozen in a time that no longer existed. And although his heart still beat, it refused to keep living. Clinging to the past isn't a tribute. It's a way of refusing to accept a painful truth. But it's not about forgetting. No one is asking you to do that. It's about transforming, finding a way to remember without stopping your breath. How do you do that? With small symbolic acts. Rituals that don't erase the love, but allow it to settle in a different place. You could write a farewell letter, light a candle, keep one item that reminds you of what you shared, and let go of those you don't need to hold on to anymore. Rearranging your space is not a betrayal. It's creating a new place from which that love can accompany you without hurting so much. Because remembering is not living anchored in the past. It's learning to carry that light without living in its shadow. And you deserve to look forward again. Yes, with tears, but also with room for what's new. Mistake number 3, withdrawing from the world and from yourself. There's a moment in grief when the only thing your body wants is silence. Silence outside, silence within, closing the door, turning off the phone, moving away from everything. And that's okay. It's natural. Pain needs space, and sometimes other people's company feels like an intrusion. Well-meaning words sound empty. Get out of the house. Cheer up. Life goes on. They hurt more than they help. But when that solitude, which was initially a refuge, turns into a bunker, we start shutting ourselves off, not just from others, but from ourselves as well. Phrases like, "I don't want to see anyone." "No one understands what I'm going through." "I'd rather be alone," become routine. And behind each one, there's a heart that's really crying out, "I don't know how to go on." Ramon, for example, was 72 when he lost his wife. During the first few weeks, his family stayed with him. But little by little, he started turning off lights. He drew the curtains, stopped answering calls. He no longer went to the park. He no longer visited his usual cafe. When people brought him food, he'd open the door just a crack to receive it. And with each gesture, unknowingly, he was also closing the doors on his own chance to heal. Isolation, though it seems like a defense, is actually a kind of surrender. We don't want the world to see us broken. But by hiding away, we also deprive ourselves of everything that could help rebuild us. Because no one can heal in absolute isolation. Pain needs to be heard, even in silence. Sometimes, it's enough for someone to sit beside us without saying a word. Sometimes, it's enough to feel we're not invisible. So what can be done? It's not about forcing yourself to socialize, or to go to parties, or smile if it doesn't come naturally. But it is about taking small steps back into the world, going out for a 5-minute walk, having coffee with someone who won't judge you, returning to a gentle activity like painting, writing, caring for a plant. Look for people who don't demand you to be okay, but who are simply there. Presence, even when silent, is a powerful medicine. And above all, you need to draw closer to yourself again. Sometimes, withdrawing is also a way of distancing ourselves from what we feel. But what goes unacknowledged cannot heal. And the first bridge to come back is to see yourself with compassion, not judgment. So if you feel yourself dimming, open a window, let in a little light, and if you can, let someone in too, because you're not alone. And because, even if you don't believe it now, the world still has things to offer you. Mistake number 4, replacing the lost love too soon. There's a void left by the loss of a partner. A huge gap in the bed, in the house, in conversations, in the silence. And sometimes, the most human impulse in the face of that abyss is to fill it. With someone, with something, with anything. It's normal. There's no guilt in wanting company, in missing a voice, a laugh, a hand to hold. But here's where many people make a silent and profound mistake, trying to replace the lost love too soon. And we're not just talking about starting a new romantic relationship. Sometimes the replacement shows up as an intense new friendship, as someone who makes me feel alive again, or as I need not to be alone. But love can't be replaced like a broken lamp or an empty chair. When you've loved deeply, it leaves roots. And when that love is lost, you have to grieve, process, pay it respect. Trying to put someone else in that place before healing is like building a house on smoldering ashes. Teresa, for example, lost her husband after 35 years of marriage. She was active, sensitive, and very well liked in her community. 3 months after her loss, she met someone in a widow's support group. He was also alone. They understood each other, shared the same pain. It seemed logical, natural. So they started a relationship. But over time, Teresa realized she wasn't really seeking love. She was seeking anesthesia. Every conversation with this new companion made her compare. Every gesture reminded her of what she no longer had. And gradually, instead of feeling accompanied, she felt lonelier than ever. Because this new bond wasn't being born out of a true desire to share, but out of a fear of facing her pain alone. This happens more often than we think. Not because the person is bad, not because they're disloyally replacing someone, but because grief is so overwhelming that we desperately search for anything that gives us back a sense of normalcy. But in love, haste is usually the enemy of authenticity. So what should you do? First, work on yourself. Rebuild from within. Accept the longing instead of trying to mask it. Talk about the one who's gone. Write letters to them. Pay tribute. And most of all, allow that lost love to have its place. Without rushing, without needing to erase what was lived. If one day someone new appears, let it not be to fill the void, but to add to the life you're already rebuilding. Because a new love can be beautiful, yes, but it shouldn't show up to cover up the old one. Rather to coexist in a heart that's learned to heal, to remember, and to open up again. Honestly. Mistake number 5, stopping your own life out of guilt. Sometimes grief doesn't only hurt because of the absence. It hurts because of guilt. Guilt for still being here, for being able to breathe, for enjoying something delicious to eat, for listening to music, for laughing by accident, and then feeling bad for doing so. It's as if, after losing the person we loved most, any hint of happiness becomes a betrayal. A sort of absurd disloyalty, but very real for the person experiencing it. How can I be okay if he's gone? How can I enjoy a trip, a meal, a conversation, if she can't anymore? And so, many people start to slowly fade away. Not because they can't live, but because they feel they shouldn't. Alicia was 72 when her husband passed away. For over 40 years, they went to the same park every afternoon. They walked, talked, sat on the same bench. It was their place. After his loss, Alicia never set foot there again. She said she couldn't, that it hurt too much, and she stayed home. Days, weeks, months. Until one afternoon, her granddaughter, with those clear eyes only children have, looked at her and said, "Do you think Grandpa would be happy seeing you sad at home?" That phrase shook her, because it's not about forgetting, or replacing, or moving on. It's about understanding that living is not a betrayal. It's a tribute. You are not betraying anyone by staying alive. You're not being cruel by laughing again. You're not abandoning the person you loved by enjoying a walk, a flower, a casual chat. What you shared with that person, wasn't it life? Weren't they moments of joy, complicity, dreams? Then why pay tribute with permanent sadness? Why turn the memory into a prison? There's something powerful you can do. An internal permission ritual. A moment with yourself in which you say out loud or in your heart, "Thank you for everything we lived. I love you. And from that love, I give myself permission to go on, not to forget you, but to honor you with every step." Because loving isn't staying stuck in pain. Loving is also allowing life to enter again, little by little, through the cracks of your soul. And when that happens, when one day, without realizing it, you smile at the memory instead of crying, that will be the greatest tribute, the sincerest, the brightest. The truth few people tell you. Grief never really goes away, but it transforms. There's something almost no one tells you when you lose the love of your life. Grief doesn't end. It's not an illness that gets cured. It's not a phase you get over. It's a transformation, a slow metamorphosis that takes place inside you when the pain no longer screams, but is still there, whispering. In the beginning, it hurts to breathe. It hurts to see the empty chair, the cold bed, the vacant spot at the table. And you hope that one day, all of a sudden, it stops hurting. But that day doesn't arrive like a miracle. Instead, something else happens. The pain starts to walk with you. It no longer knocks you to the ground. It no longer shatters your chest. It simply accompanies you, like a soft shadow, like a scar that no longer bleeds, but never disappears. That's when you understand that grief isn't an enemy to be defeated. It's a teacher. Harsh, yes, but also wise. Because when you lose someone you love deeply, it's not only the absence that transforms you, it's everything that person planted in you. Their way of seeing the world, their values, their laughter, their love. All of that stays. You're not moving away from your partner. You're learning to carry them with you in another way. No longer in your arms or in your home, but in your decisions, in how you embrace others, in the memories you choose to share, in the things you do because you know it would have made him or her smile. Grief doesn't stop you from loving again. On the contrary, it teaches you to love with more depth, with more presence, with a greater awareness of time. And one day, without knowing exactly when, you stop asking why they left, and you start being grateful for all they left in you. That's the silent miracle of grief. It doesn't erase love, it makes it eternal. Moving forward isn't a betrayal. It's not acting as if nothing happened. It's not tearing up photos, emptying drawers, or deleting phone numbers. Moving forward means understanding that love doesn't die. It transforms. It becomes part of you, in how you speak, in your silences, in your gestures, in your strength. Remembering isn't being trapped. It's letting what you lived have a place inside you, but not letting it stop you from breathing. And if one day you laugh again, don't feel guilty. You're not forgetting. You're healing. If one day you fall in love again, or learn to enjoy your solitude, you're not replacing anyone. You're growing. Loving again, laughing, living, doesn't erase the love that came before. It enriches it. Because no one can take away what you lived. No one can steal what you felt. And no one ever can fill a place that was unique. But you can choose to carry that love as a light that guides you, not as a chain that holds you back. If this video touched something in you, share it with someone who needs it, someone who might not know how to go on today. Leave a comment if you've experienced a loss. Tell us what helped you, what sustained you, what words comforted you when you needed it most. And if you're looking for a space where there's no judgment, where no one shouts, where you're simply accompanied, subscribe. We're here to walk with you. And remember this, moving on doesn't mean leaving behind the one who's gone. It means carrying them with you without stopping. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video.